Alright, hello everybody, and today I'm going to be going over what three classes I'm going to be playing for Mythic Plus and what class I'm probably going to be maining to go for the server first Mythic Plus 15 runs. So I currently have a Priest, a Druid, and a Shaman, all at 110. They're all basically Mythic Plus geared, all around 840 at the moment. And then next week hopefully we'll be filling out with the gear and just making sure everything's up to scratch for the Mythic Plus grind. So I would currently rank these three classes. So the Priest, the Druid, and the Shaman. They're probably my top three for Mythic Plus. Mistweaver is in there too. It's just the problem I find with Mistweaver is that it lacks a lot of mobility at the moment, um, which can be a problem in a lot of the dungeons. If it's a big problem for some bosses like Eye of Ashara, where they simply just can't put out the HPS required for that last boss, which pretty much makes them a dead healer. And that's the same with the H Pally. So the H Pally has their mastery, which makes them have to be close to the targets to heal them. That's not always possible, and that is a big downfall to the class. Also, their mobility is pretty terrible on that. That's the same goes for Holy Priest as well. Holy Priest mastery just doesn't cater to Mythic Plus, and especially just to the nerfs to the class. It used to be one of the better ones just because of the Holy Word, the big Holy Word spells, but it doesn't have the mobility and doesn't have the throughput that the Druid and the Shaman and the Disc Priest provide. So first we're going to talk about probably my third choice actually is the Resto Druid. So the Resto Druid right now, it was originally the best Mythic Plus healer, and that was because of how strong the mastery was. So the more hots you had on a target, the more healing you'd be doing to that target. The mastery was about halved, which was a significant decrease to the performance of the Druid in Mythic Plus dungeons. So now while the Druid did gain a lot of single target healing, it did also lose a lot of healing in regrowth. So what you'll find is when you do fall behind on a Resto Druid, it's really hard to catch up. They do have their artifact ability, which is very strong, but that is on a 1.5 minute cooldown. So in Mythic Plus, we're literally like one chain lightning, from the first mobs in say Eye of Ashara will pretty much either kill or get your entire group to very low HP. And then a Druid just can't consistently top up a group from that. So that's the main problem I have with a Druid. Druids are still very good. It will be my third choice. Druids do bring great things, like they bring a battle res. They are the only healer with a battle res, which is very important in a Mythic Plus dungeon, having at least one battle res. They have Ironbark, which is probably one of the best, or is the best tank cooldown at the moment, just because of its low cooldown. They have the best mobility of all the classes, which is another reason why they are one of the top picks. And they do bring some utility like Typhoon and Vortex. So that's always a plus, but compared to the utility of the Resto Shaman and the Disc Priest, it's not up there. It's not on the same kind of level. But Resto Druid is kind of the obvious pick for a lot of people, but I'm going to get into the Resto Shaman and the Disc Priest right now, and I'm going to explain why I think they're better. And just to finish off, just the stat priority you want to be going for your Resto Druid would be Mastery and Haste for Mythic Plus dungeons. You want to be stacking the Mastery just for that tank healing and that single target healing you could be putting out on single people. So my second choice is actually going to be the Resto Shaman. Now I'm going to be playing the Resto Shaman on where we're going to be single tanking if we're single tanking some of the dungeons. If we do find we need more DPS, we've got a very flexible group, and we've got a lot of people who want to push for the plus 15. So I'm going to be running a Shaman for a single tank group makeup, and that is because they have a lot of single target healing. Their mastery is fantastic for Mythic Plus dungeons. They have very good cooldowns in AG. They have Spirit Link Totem. They have Ancestral Protection Totem. They have an Interrupt, so they bring Heroism. They have an AoE Stun. They have Unk. They have Link. They have, yeah, pretty much they pretty much smash every other healer in utility. They also have very good damage. Lava Burst hits a lot, and that's something that you will want to be bringing. There is downtime in a lot of the bosses, even though it is, when you get up to boss 15, you do have a lot of free globals you can be using if your tank, your tank that won't be taking damage all the time. So that's something that's always good. So with the resto Shaman, I will be going Mastery and then over Haste equal to Crit. So Crit will give you is a nice throughput. Just it has good stats along with Haste, so they both scale almost the same. Crit does give you, through your artifact weapon, 20% haste on your next spell cast. Does give you mana back. Mana's not really a big problem, but haste does scale slightly better, and haste also lets you lets you react to things quicker. So haste equal to mastery, haste equal to crit after mastery. It's not really a big deal. You just want to be going for item level at that point. So now, for the interesting pick that I think a lot of people will be surprised about is my number one pick for the Mythic Plus dungeons will be the Disc Priest. So now the main reason I'm going to be picking Disc Priest is because of its just damage. So the damage you can be putting out on Disc Priest right now, I'm at about 848 item level on my Disc Priest. I can easily sustain 150k DPS while, using quite a few globals on Shadow Mend and quite a few globals on just keeping atonement up and radiances and all that. 150k easy. I don't have the artifact traits in the plus haste yet and the plus damage, that gold dragon. They're the ones I'm working on at the moment, and those two will also be very, very big DPS increases. And then also every artifact trait you get will be a percentage damage increase. So there is a lot of scaling also to be done on my Disc Priest in the next week. Will make it even stronger. So that'll be a nice improvement to it. But the reason I'll be bringing a Disc Priest is because it actually has the highest single target throughput healing through Shadow Mend. Even though Shadow Mend does have that negative effect is easily taken away on any tank when they're taking damage. It's not something you have to worry about. They can sit there and cast their Shadow Mends. Mine's critting at the moment for about almost 700k. It's very quick heal. And you also have a lot of throughput healing just through your atonements. They do still have their powered shield and absorbs, which is very good for things like Mythic plus Blackroot Cold, where the boss doesn't actually give you the plus HP for a few seconds and you cast a Shadowbolt Volley. For a moment like that, you can just have your Disc Priest, you can bubble everybody in the raid, you can put a barrier down, everyone can pop their defensive cooldowns, you're not going to die to that mechanic. There is a lot of situations like that. Just being able to give somebody that extra little bit of HP, that extra little 300k absorb, might be the difference between them dying or them living. They also have the passive damage absorbed from Smite, which actually turns out to be a lot of healing and just a lot of dampening on what the actual mob's doing. They do have very good 2-target tank healing through the atonement. We're going to be running a DK and a Demon Hunter tank, so they're both self-healing tanks, so they're just going to be tank swapping off each other. They're going to be healing themselves up along with my atonement, so my actual split healing doesn't need to be too high. I just need to be keeping the smites on the tank and make sure I'm shadow mending the tank that's actually tanking all the mobs at that point in time. So yeah, so that's why I'm going to be playing the Disc Priest in Mythic Plus dungeons, just for when we're 2 tanking, and then back to probably the Shaman for a single tank setup. So for my Disc Priest, I will be going haste over crit, over versatility, over mastery. I want to be trying to get rid of as much mastery as possible, and that's just purely because it doesn't scale with Shadow Mend. So mastery has no effect on Shadow Mend. and Mastery doesn't scale well enough to the point where it's worth stacking where your Atonement is better. I believe Mastery is about 250 points for 1% increased healing on your Atonements, whereas if you look at a stat like Haste, it's about 330 for 1% increased healing on your Atonements. So it does scale worse for that healing through Atonements, but Haste will scale your damage, and will also scale your Shadowmend healing. So that's why Haste is your best stat for the Disc Priest. And then yeah, obviously also just the pure damage a Disc Priest will bring will pretty much reduce any side effects of taking a second tank. Tanks are doing almost as much DPS. We're going to be running monks, so they're not going to be doing the same DPS as probably a monk would be running, but they do a lot of AoE DPS, and the single target DPS they're going to be losing on a boss we pick up by bringing a Disc Priest. So that's the ideology around bringing a Disc Priest. But in saying all that, I've leveled all these three characters to 110 just in prep to make sure we're ready to go, and have everything set up. So hopefully this was kind of insightful and just give you an idea behind what the thought process behind the healers I've chosen to play in Legion just for the Mythic Plus dungeons. Thanks for watching.